I can tell you that there is no self in the body, and I can present you with an irrefutable argument about that. But even though all of those things can be understood and learned, they won't change your experience because it's all in the realm of concepts. It's all thought process. It's all information. Right? Information in and of itself doesn't change anything. It actually complicates things. And so the practice of meditation is going from the conceptual to the experiential. Instead of just talking about the idea that you are the awareness itself, meditation is practicing actually experiencing that you are the awareness itself. And when you go to have that experience, the thought process that's been in the way of that experience all along continues to play. And it continues to attract your attention because you have been conditioned in such a way to believe that the voice in your head is you, right? And so it's just me thinking. And why would I not want to think? Me thinking. I think about everything. I figure life out. I think about what I'm going to do. I think about the past. I think about the future. And so this is the habit pattern that we have. We think that we're the thinker of our thoughts, and upon close examination, the evidence reveals that that's actually not true. This is a big discovery, to discover that the voice in your head isn't you. All along you've been listening to it as if it's you and following what it says because you would not listen to yourself. But here you can discover that it's not you, it's not yourself, it's the voice of the mind. And the voice of the mind is using all your previous experiences, right, to try and keep describing what's happening to you and to keep telling you what to do next, keep reminding you of what you did wrong, right? Keep thinking about what you want and what you don't want. So it keeps you in this world of thought all the time. You wake up in the morning and the first thing that happens is you begin to experience the thought process about the day or about whatever else it is that you are involved with as far as your story is concerned, as far as your life is concerned. So the meditation experience is about experiencing the natural state. What do we mean by the natural state? If I said to you, what's your natural physical state? What would the answer be? Are you...
I would say our body.
Yeah, that's right. Your body is your natural physical state, right? And so the baby is in the natural physical state, isn't it? And then we put a diaper on it, right? And we start to train it to become part of the tribe. And if you're going to be part of this tribe, you got to wear clothes, right? And so the natural state, your birthday suit gets covered, right? You learn to cover it, right? Because that's the way we do things. You don't walk around in your natural state. You keep it covered, right? The same thing is true with the natural state of being. The baby's in a natural state of being, right? And then it gets language and we say, okay, we're going to cover that natural state of being with a name. You're not just I am anymore, but now you are I am, and then there's a name. So we're going to cover that natural state with a name, then we're going to start to cover it up more with a story. You are your name, you are your body, you are your story, you are your personality, and we're going to teach you about your personality. You are good at this and bad at that. You're smart, you're not so smart. You're beautiful, you're not so beautiful. Right? And so you learn the story of your body, you learn the story of your personality, and you take that on, right? And then you're living your life as that. And the natural state has been buried. The baby in the natural state has been covered up now by these concepts, by these self-concepts, by these self-images. And then you live your life as this self-concept that you are. And this life, as you're living it as a self-concept, is a life in which you learn to relate to what's happening in a particular way, right? You learn to relate to what's happening in a particular way in terms of you start to fall into the way that everybody else is, and the way that everybody else is everybody's seeking pleasure and avoiding pain, aren't they? Yeah, everybody's seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. So you fall into that. You may not even notice that you have fallen into that, right? But what happens is you start to look forward to things that will be pleasurable, right? And you try and avoid things that are going to be painful, right? So your life is a process now where you're trying to play the game of being happy and not unhappy, fulfilled and not unfulfilled, experience pleasure and peace and calmness, and avoiding being uncomfortable and avoiding conflict. So this is the way that you're functioning all day long, right? In big ways and little ways. You try and avoid the traffic, right? You try and avoid conflict with other people, right? You try and avoid situations that are uncomfortable. You try and avoid physical situations where the body gets sick, right? And so life becomes a process in which you're working every day to try and maintain some kind of balance, some kind of equilibrium, some state of well-being that you can enjoy instead of suffer. And it's an ongoing process, and it gets very complicated, and involves money, it involves being in control, it involves all kinds of different situations. The bottom line is that it's an unworkable reality. It is not a solution to anything, and it takes up a lot of energy, right? And so it wears us out. We become tired of life. We become exhausted, and our lives become about just trying to avoid conflict, avoid being uncomfortable, and trying to have as much pleasure and as much happiness as possible. The pursuit of happiness. So meditation can become a very significant opportunity in your life if you realize that the way you've been living your life and the way most people live life is an unworkable approach to living life. To consider yourself to be something that is very limited, like a personality, separate from everything else, like a personality, right? To consider yourself a physical body, and the physical body has a birth and a death. And the physical body, from birth, it begins to head towards its end, right? And so from birth, it begins to go up to a peak of midlife and then starts to decline until the body is going to disappear. And compared to all time, the human life is a very temporary experience, right? The people, those of us who are older know that directly, right? Because we realize how it seems like it's been such a short period of time that we've been alive, right? So what that tells us is we don't have time to waste, right? If it's possible to experience well-being, if it's possible to experience peace and contentment and satisfaction and well-being in this life, then we better get to it, right? Because we don't have a lot of time. We better start practicing what will allow that experience to occur. And meditation is a practice that will allow that experience to occur. But those of you who are relatively new to the practice might say, yeah, but when I go to meditate, I just experience frustration because I sit there the whole time trying to maintain attention on the body breathing, but I find that the thought process just keeps pulling me in, pulling me in, pulling me in. And so it's frustrating, because I can't stay out of the thought process and maintain my attention on the belly breathing, on the body breathing. Well, that should tell you something that's very important, right? It should tell you that your idea about yourself, that you're able to pay attention to anything, is a misunderstanding. Because here we are practicing meditation, you can't pay attention to your breath for more than 10 seconds or 15 seconds. So what makes you think you're paying attention to anything when you're not meditating? This is very important to understand, because your life is a reality in which your attention is being taken all day long by things, right? Why? Because the game you're playing in life is to pay attention in such a way where you can notice what will give you peace, you can notice what will give you pleasure, you can notice what will give you happiness, and you can chase that, and you can notice what's scaring you and what's dangerous and what's threatening you, and you can avoid that, right? And so that's what's got your attention, isn't it? You think you're paying attention, right? But if you're a teenager and a good-looking teenage girl goes by, your attention goes with it, right? If you're somebody who's pursuing happiness and you believe money's the solution to being happy, you know, wherever there's money, it's got your attention, right? If you're somebody like most human beings that wants to live a long life and survive, when you come up to the corner and the light is red, you stop, right? So things get your attention that are threatening, and things get your attention that promise you to get what you want. So your attention is being taken all day long. This is how commercials work. If you look at a good television commercial, right, it's designed not only to get your attention, but it's designed to have your attention experience that you need what's being shown to you to be okay. That's what the purpose of the commercial is, right? Either you need what's being shown to you to be okay, or even if you're okay, what's being shown to you will make that better. More, different, and better. If you go into a supermarket and you look at what's on all the packages, new and improved, more, different, better, right? It's all over the place, right? Because they know what you're paying attention to and they want to get your attention so that you buy the product, right? The more, different, and better game, right? And so that's what's got your attention all the time. No wonder your attention can't relax and be available to experience your true nature in that natural state of awareness. And that's why meditation is necessary. You've got to practice something in which you're being still, you're being silent, and you're moving your attention away from this always changing process of thought and emotions, always changing. We call this, in the teaching, it's called impermanence. Right? And the way we relate to impermanence is interesting. We relate to impermanence in two ways. In the state that we're in the condition we're in as a personality, we relate to impermanence in two ways, right? If it's something that we don't like and we don't like experiences, we don't want it, we want to get rid of it, we want it to change, right? Everything is always changing, right? That's impermanence, right? One of the things that they say is when you're suffering, this too shall pass, right? Everything's always changing, right? But when you're suffering, you don't care about that profound statement, this too shall pass. You want it to pass now, not later, right now. So that's one way we relate to impermanence and change. The other way we relate to impermanence and change is if it's something that feels good, we don't want it to stop. We want to try and hold on to it, right? That's why we get married, right? We want to try and hold on to it. That's why we, keep purchasing new things so that we can stay in the experience of having something that allows us to feel happy, right? So that makes us a consumer, right? And that means that we will buy anything that we believe will contribute to our happiness and well-being, right? So those are the two ways that we experience impermanence, right? One in which we try and stop things from changing, one in which we wish things would change faster, right? So the practice of meditation is a transcendental practice. It means that if you experience your true nature is no longer being affected by what's changing. And one of the reasons that's the case is because your true nature never changes. It's the only experience you could possibly have in a human life that is stable. The awareness that you have now, if you look at the awareness that you're experiencing right now, you will notice that it is exactly the same as it's always been, isn't it? It's not different. It doesn't change colors, it doesn't change form. It just stays the same all the time, just like the space in this room. Space in this room never changes. Everything else in this room is changing all the time. But the space in this room never changes, and no matter what happens in this room, the space in this room is not affected by that. And the awareness that is our true nature, the natural state, is the same. It's unaffected by, no matter what happens, it's unaffected by that. It stays in a state of peace, it stays in a state of well-being, it stays in a state of contentment, right? That sounds like a pretty good product, right? You want to buy that? It's not for sale. It's not for sale because you already have it. It's the natural state. You already have it. You're experiencing it right now as you sit there. You're experiencing your true nature right now. But then you could say, well, if I'm experiencing my true nature right now, why am I not experiencing the peace, happiness, and contentment that's available to me? And that's because you have been conditioned to become a thought addict. You become a thought addict, right? And so you can't stay away from thinking. You believe that you must think to function. You believe that you must think to function. And so even though what's available to you 24/7 is a state of well-being, you're preoccupied. You're busy thinking about life instead of experiencing it. You're busy thinking about yourself instead of experiencing your true nature. Yeah, when you think about yourself, you're thinking about yourself as a concept. My self-concept, right? You think about yourself. That's not always a pleasant experience, is it? Thinking about yourself, right? Because the nature of the mind turns on you too, right? If you don't meet your own expectations, right, you're not good enough. If you don't look as good as you think you should look, you're not okay. If you're not able to perform as well as the next person, that you're a failure, right? So this business of being a personality and living in a thought process and living in a self-concept is not a very comfortable experience. It's not a very consistent experience. It's not a very fulfilling experience. And so if you get the possibility, if you understand the possibility, and what the teachings are about is deepening your understanding of the possibility so you realize it's not bullshit, it's the truth, capital T, truth. And you've probably heard that statement, the truth shall set you free. Free from what? Free from thinking you're something you're not. Free from believing that you're a physical body when you're not. You're a spiritual being having a human experience. You're a spiritual being having a human experience. But for most people, they don't know about the spiritual being part. They're just having a human experience. In meditation, by being still and being silent, and practicing calming the mind and relaxing the body, you can get enough of the interference out of the way so that the reality of your true nature is apparent, that you can actually experience what you really are. And when you start to experience what you really are, you start to experience spontaneous well-being. In other words, your well-being, your peacefulness, your contentment, your happiness is no longer a function of the situation that you're in, right? No longer, because before you experience your true nature, your well-being and your happiness is always a function of the situation you're in, isn't it? You try and get good situations, don't you? Right? You try and get, people try and create the situation that will produce the experience that they want. So they might think, well, I'm not very happy here, so I'll move somewhere else, you know, where it seems like that's a better place for me to live and I'll be happy there. Or I'm not happy in this relationship, I'll get rid of this person and get somebody else, right? And so we live in this consumer state of mind that we can just keep changing what we have, right? So when it stops producing happiness, we get rid of that and get something else, right? This is a never-ending process, right? And as you get older, if you're lucky, you'll realize, wait a minute, this isn't working. If there's something else, I want to find out what it is, because this isn't working, right? And I'm getting too old to keep up with it, right? I'm getting too old. I'm getting too tired of this rat race, you know? And even if, I heard this recently, even if you win the rat race, you're still a rat. So this is a practice that requires consistency, right? Because you've been consistently crazy. So if you want to go sane, you have to be practicing consistent sanity. And consistent sanity means you sit still, right? You let the body relax. You let go of this thought activity that's produced nothing but confusion, upset, conflict, disturbance, suffering. You start to let go of that so you can realize the reality of the natural state in which none of that is the case. And if you get strong enough in the experience of your natural state, even though this continues, which it will, it's not low, it will lose its effect on you. You will stop suffering because of your identification with this, just like an actor that's playing a role in a play, right? See, your life is like you're an actor playing a script in a play, right? The play is your life. You're the star of the movie. All the people around you are supporting actors, right? That's what your life is, right? But it's not a movie, it's real, and it's dramatic, and it's not going to end well. Right? So, but if you wake up, you realize, oh, I am not the actor, I am the awareness. So like an actor that's playing a role in a movie or a play, the reason they can have a lot of fun doing it is because they know it's not true. right? They know that after the play, they can put that role aside and go home and, be in the real life, right? And so this is the same way. You begin to understand, oh, I thought I was the actor. I thought I was the personality. I thought I was the physical body. Now I'm waking up and realizing that's not my true nature. And as I continue to practice and that experience gets stronger and stronger, right? The effect of the actor that I am playing on me loses its ability to have any negative effect on me. And I can start to experience a consistent state of well-being, happiness, peace, and contentment, no matter what's going on in the play. You see? Like an actor in a movie, no matter what's going on in the movie, right? It could be a dramatic movie where terrible things happen. It could be a war movie, right, where terrible things happen. But the actor playing the role in the movie, right, is never affected by the act that they're involved in. It's exactly the same way. When you wake up, you realize that my true nature, which is awareness itself, like the space in this room, is not affected by anything that's happening in my life. And if I can have this get stronger and stronger through the practice of meditation, even death won't bother me. Yeah, even death won't bother me. And if I wake up and I see things as they are, I may actually realize that the awareness that is my true nature, that is not a form, has no beginning and has no end. You start to explore this state of awareness that is your true nature, and it's possible to come to the realization that that awareness wasn't born and that awareness is not going to die, and therefore you can relax. That's what's available. That's why Jesus Christ said, I offer you life everlasting. Yeah, he was saying, if you realize your true nature, you'll realize you weren't born and you're not going to die. And with that realization, you can continue to live your life and continue to be the actor as a personality and enjoy the whole thing. Enjoy the whole thing. So that when death comes, you can just let go and let the body go, and there's no problem. That's a pretty good deal, isn't it? That's everything you could ever possibly hope for, right? That you could be happy in this life and discover that you're not going to die. Everything you could possibly hope for. And what the teachings tell us is that's actually available. You can actually experience that to be the truth that's actually available, but it's not free lunch. It's actually available, but first you have to come out of the conditioned experience you're having to experience what you actually are, so that you can begin to enjoy the experience of being in this human life, which is very temporary. Right? So you don't have time to mess around. Right? So that's why in this class, the purpose of this class is not just to say what I'm saying, or it's not just to have you experience meditation for a few minutes. It's to get you to understand that you should be doing this every single day. You should be practicing this like brushing your teeth, and if you do that, eventually you'll start to wake up and experience what I'm talking about for yourself, like that. And since I've been teaching this class, it's going on 9-10 years now I've been teaching this class, there are students who have been coming to the class on a regular basis, and there are students who have been coming to the class and practicing meditation on a regular basis who have reported that they are experiencing what I'm talking about. It can happen anytime, since it's already true, right? It does happen sometimes for people without doing any meditation, right? You could fall and bang your head and wake up, right? That can happen anytime because it's already true. So a sudden shock might wake you up, right? Wake you up to what? To your natural state, right? To the way it is, to the way you actually are. It's available all the time. So you practice meditation consistently with the idea that you're gradually coming out of the illusion, you're gradually coming out of the mistaken identity, right? But along the way, as you're practicing that, at any time the whole thing could end. Because it's already the case that you are what you are. You're already the natural state. You're already the awareness itself.